Munich, Germany, 1962. The air was thick with the crisp scent of early autumn, the cobblestone streets echoing with the chatter of cafe patrons and the distant hum of trams. Inside, a dimly lit office on a quiet side street, Heinz Krug sat across from a man whose very presence exuded menace. Krug's hands trembled slightly as he sipped from a chipped porcelain cup, his eyes darting to the heavy-set figure before him. Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's legendary commando. Krug had reason to be nervous. Death threats had been arriving in the mail for weeks, each one more ominous than the last. Rumors swirled of Israeli agents targeting German scientists involved in Egypt's missile program, and Krug was high on their list. But here he was, placing his trust in a man who had built a career on betrayal and violence. Skorzeny, for his part, remained calm, his scarred face betraying no emotion. The faint clink of his cigarette case broke the silence as he lit another, the smoke curling lazily in the dim light. Krug believed he was here to discuss protection. Skorzeny had other plans. The German scientist vanished that very night, leaving behind an abandoned office and a mystery that would haunt Munich for decades. His disappearance wasn't the result of random violence. It was the culmination of a covert Mossad operation that blurred the line between justice and survival. By 1962, Israel was a nation surrounded by hostility. Egypt, led by President Gamal Abdel Nasser, had positioned itself as Israel's most formidable adversary. Nasser's calls for the destruction of Israel resonated across the Arab world, and his ambitions to lead the region's military power took a dangerous turn. With the help of German scientists, some of whom had worked on Nazi Germany's V-2 rocket program, Egypt was building an arsenal of missiles capable of striking deep into Israeli territory. For Israel, these weapons represented not just a military threat, but a potential existential catastrophe. Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, was charged with dismantling this perilous program. What followed was a shadow war fought in the offices and laboratories of Europe. Under Operation Damocles, Mossad launched a campaign of fear and disruption. Anonymous letters warned German scientists to abandon their work. Mail bombs targeted collaborators. But as effective as these tactics were in sowing paranoia, they weren't enough to neutralize the danger entirely. To deliver a decisive blow, Mossad sought an unlikely and controversial ally, Otto Skorzeny, a man whose name still echoed with the dark legacy of the Third Reich. Otto Skorzeny's name was legend, his exploits the stuff of wartime myth. Born in Vienna in 1908, Skorzeny grew up in a Europe teetering on the brink of turmoil. A skilled engineer by trade, he was also a duelist, bearing a deep facial scar, a badge of honor in the student fraternities of his time. But it was his transformation into a soldier that would carve his name into history. Skorzeny joined the Nazi Party in the 1930s and quickly found his calling within the Waffen-SS, the elite paramilitary wing of the regime. His natural charisma, tactical brilliance, and audacity set him apart from his peers. During his training, he specialized in unconventional warfare, mastering sabotage, espionage, and guerrilla tactics. These skills would make him a pivotal figure in Hitler's war machine. In 1943, Skorzeny was chosen for a mission that would define his career: the dramatic rescue of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. Mussolini had been deposed and imprisoned in a remote mountaintop hotel in Italy. Leading a daring glider assault, Skorzeny and his team stormed the location, secured Mussolini, and escaped by plane. The operation, codenamed Unternehmen Eiche, Operation Oak, stunned the world. Winston Churchill himself reportedly called Skorzeny a master of guerrilla warfare, and Hitler personally awarded him the Knight's Cross for his success. Skorzeny's reputation only grew with subsequent missions. He spearheaded operations to disrupt Allied forces during the Ardennes offensive and organized covert units that infiltrated enemy lines disguised in Allied uniforms, a tactic that earned him both admiration and accusations of war crimes. By the end of the war, Skorzeny had cemented his status as one of the Third Reich's most notorious and effective operatives. After Germany's defeat, Skorzeny was captured by Allied forces and held for trial at Nuremberg. However, in a move befitting his wartime exploits, he escaped custody in 1948 with the help of former SS comrades. Fleeing to Spain, where Francisco Franco's regime provided a haven for ex-Nazis, Skorzeny reinvented himself as a globe-trotting mercenary and consultant. He offered his expertise to governments, rebel groups, and private clients, earning both wealth and infamy. By 1962, he was living comfortably in Madrid, his past as a Nazi officer largely overshadowed by his reputation as a soldier for hire. Why would Mossad, the intelligence agency of a nation founded as a refuge for Holocaust survivors, turn to a man like Skorzeny? The question is as perplexing as it is chilling. Skorzeny's motivations for agreeing to work with Mossad remain a subject of debate. Some say he sought redemption, a way to rewrite the narrative of his life. Others suggest a more pragmatic motive, fear. Mossad had a long reach and a reputation for dealing ruthlessly with enemies of Israel. Skorzeny may have calculated that cooperation was his best chance for survival. One Mossad operative later remarked, "He was a tool, not an ally. He served his purpose and nothing more." The partnership was forged, not out of trust or mutual respect, but out of necessity. Skorzeny's skills, connections, and audacity made him the perfect instrument for Mossad's high-stakes campaign against Egypt's missile program. Whatever his reasons, his involvement would mark one of the most paradoxical episodes in the annals of espionage. The meeting between Skorzeny and Krug was orchestrated with precision. Krug, desperate and paranoid, sought Skorzeny's help against the perceived Israeli threat. Skorzeny played his part flawlessly, assuring Krug of his safety while quietly planning his elimination. Historical accounts suggest that Mossad provided logistical support, but it was Skorzeny who delivered the fatal blow. Krug's body was never found, a chilling testament to the efficiency of the operation. Mossad documents declassified decades later suggest that his disappearance was more than an assassination. It was a psychological strike. Krug's vanishing act sent shockwaves through the German scientific community, causing many to abandon their work in Egypt out of fear. One scientist later admitted it wasn't just about Krug. It was about sending a message. You are not safe no matter where you are. For Mossad, the operation was a tactical success. Egypt's missile program was severely crippled, and the immediate threat to Israel diminished. But the mission came at a moral cost. Partnering with a figure like Skorzeny, a man who had once represented everything Israel stood against, raised profound ethical questions. In a letter to Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, a Mossad agent reflected on the operation's moral implications. "We are a nation born of ashes, built on the promise of never again. Yet to survive, we now align ourselves with those who once sought our destruction. Is survival at any cost still survival?" This moral ambiguity isn't unique to Mossad. It echoes through history, where nations and leaders have often found themselves forced to choose between principle and pragmatism. The partnership with Skorzeny was a calculated gamble, one that paid off strategically, but left behind a legacy of uncomfortable questions. Skorzeny, for his part, returned to his life of mercenary work after the operation. He reportedly worked with various regimes and clients, his loyalty always to power and profit rather than ideology. He died in Madrid in 1975, his role in Operation Damocles only coming to light years later. For Mossad, he was a fleeting asset, a necessary evil in a battle for survival. This story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about morality and survival. Can ethical lines be bent or even crossed when the stakes are existential? In the shadowy world of espionage, where alliances shift like sand, is trust ever more than a convenient illusion? Today, as the world grapples with complex geopolitical threats, these questions remain painfully relevant. What compromises are we willing to make for security? And how do we reconcile those compromises with the values we claim to uphold? What do you think? Was Mossad's decision to collaborate with Skorzeny a necessary evil? Or did it compromise the very principles they sought to protect? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective is what keeps these stories alive and relevant. Before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to War and Wisdom in History, and hit that notification bell. Stay curious, seek wisdom, and we'll see you in the next chapter of history.